and are victorious in this ceasefire. But we understand that this ceasefire was not because of Trump. Let's make this very, very clear. This ceasefire was because of the people in Palestine who resisted every single day. Gaza is now the center of the struggle against imperialism and oppression for the masses across the world. Gaza has become moral authority for the people of consciousness across the world. The right to resist cannot be revoked. And the true definition of Palestinian liberation is now cemented in the consciousness of millions of people across the world. And we understand that this ceasefire is the bare minimum, right? This ceasefire is the bare minimum, and liberation is everything we're fighting for. We're not going to stop fighting for Palestine until we see every single inch of Palestinian territory returned back to the Palestinian people. In our millions, in our billions,
in our millions, in our billions,
we are all Palestinians.
We are all Palestinians.
And we stand here to ask the question, what is to be done? What is to be done? How do we fight back against Trump's agenda to deport millions of immigrants? His attack on the workers, his attack on the LGBT community, his continuation of American crimes across the world, and his continuation of taking the wealth of working class people and giving it to the billionaires. That is the question. What is to be done? And we answer that by saying we must have the strongest solidarity we've ever had. And we must organize. We must organize and organize like we never organized before, right? This is why today is so important. You see people from every single background, from every single struggle, coming together and say, we're gonna fight back. Because one attack on one oppressed people is an attack on every single one of us, right? Yeah! In over 80 cities across the country, there's massive demonstrations from D.C. to Raleigh to Los Angeles to even Alaska.
Yeah.
When they come to the port, our immigrant brothers and sisters, we must be there to protect them. We must be there on the front lines. We must be there taking risks to stand in solidarity with our immigrant brothers and sisters. When they come to attack the workers, we must be there on the picket line. When they continue to bomb countries across the global south, we must be there protesting and disrupting and revolting. Instead of meeting the needs of people and solving the climate catastrophe that's getting worse every single day, Trump and his billionaire friends will continue to fund the pockets of weapons corporations. But we need to understand very clearly, how did we get here? How did we get here? We got here because the Democratic Party completely failed to speak to the needs of working class people. We got here because the Democratic Party completely turned their backs on the immigrant community. And we got here most importantly, most significantly, because for 470 days, to the very last day of the presidency, Joe Biden and the Democratic Party funded and oversaw one of the worst genocides of our entire lifetime. That's how we got here. Shame! Shame! But we must understand, Trump did not win this election because ordinary people are becoming more right-wing. That's not true, right? He won this election because people are waking up to the fact that the two-party system does not work for the majority of people, and they're abandoning the Democratic Party. So we must let go of this idea that the ordinary people are becoming more right-wing. No, the ruling class is becoming more right-wing. But don't get confused either. Trump is a billionaire, right? He's a billionaire. You know, he's a billionaire who was elected by other billionaires to serve the interests of other billionaires. Let's look at who's in his cabinet, right? The richest people in the world. Elon Musk is right there next to him, making decisions for this government. Isn't that crazy? The corruption is right in your face. How can we talk about democracy? How can we seriously talk about democracy and human rights when we've seen what this country has committed? But somehow the Trump and Congress wants us to believe that's undocumented migrants who are the problem, right? The poorest paid people in this country, the most exploited people in this country, somehow they're responsible for inflation or for violence or for all these other issues in society. But we know those are lies. We know those are complete lies. And as working class people, immigrant or not, we must stand in complete and utter solidarity with immigrant families and immigrant communities. And to my fellow brothers and sisters who are immigrants, because I'm an immigrant myself, That's right. There's many people here. I see so many faces here. We must fight back. They want us to be scared. They want us to stay home and not speak out. But right now, we must fight back, right? Yeah. And people who are not immigrants, you have to fight back even harder than the immigrants, right? Because you have to show that solidarity and stand with the immigrant community. Before I introduce our first speaker, I want to acknowledge the significance of today. Because yes, it's Inauguration Day, but much, much, much more importantly, it's Martin Luther King Day. So make some noise for Martin Luther King. We know that Dr. King, if he were alive today, would be right here in the streets with us, right? Yes. And we honor the real Dr. King, the anti-imperialist, the pro-socialist. That's the real Dr. King. And I echo his words when he said, capitalism has outlived its usefulness. Capitalism has outlived its usefulness. And to tell us more about the radical legacy and pro-worker agenda of Dr. King, we're going to have our first speaker, Bria from Refund Raleigh. So make some noise for Bria.
Peace, y'all. Bria from Refund Raleigh. Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Now, I'm going to cut right to the chase. And of course, we are facing a contradiction, as Victor named today, that we are commemorating a black radical legacy while a billionaire warmonger has once again been sworn into office. But I would contend that King would recognize that the primary contradiction of today is a contradiction that persists every single day. It's the contradictions of racism, of capitalism, of imperialism, contradictions we've been living with since this nation came into existence. This settler colonial racist nation came into existence. These are the contradictions that persist every day. And while establishment figures now try to claim King as their own, we in the streets dare not forget how unpopular he was with his so-called allies, the white moderates, the white liberals, the white conservatives, and even his own people, unfortunately. We dare not forget that King was abandoned by these people, black and white and otherwise, the moment he started talking about a radical redistribution of political and economic power and spoke out against the Vietnam War. We dare not forget that King was assassinated the very day after he stood with marching workers, 1,300 striking sanitation workers in Memphis, Tennessee. The very next day. We dare not forget that the FBI's domestic intelligence chief called him the most dangerous Negro of the future of this nation. Shame. Now, King came to the conclusion that we cannot fight racism without addressing its exploitative economic roots, and we cannot confront capitalism without addressing it in its imperialist form. He even grew to support national liberation movements in the global South. Yeah, I guess he was dangerous. King even recognized the black ghettos as a domestic colony that deserves to fight for their self-determination, to determine their own destiny. So yeah, I guess he was dangerous to the powers and the ruling class of this world. And I contend that the way to honor this dangerous legacy lies not just in quoting King into oblivion, even to support a radical agenda. That's nice, but we gotta organize. We can't just quote, we can't just decontextualize these quotes of King and clean our hands and say our work is done. I contend that if we truly want to honor King, we must take up an unflinching commitment to truly study his political and intellectual and spiritual contributions to our liberation movements and put a permanent end to the liberalization of his image. So by the time you leave here today, you will have heard from multiple allied organizations who represent the multiple different components of what King was fighting for, and also the multiple issues that Trump's right-wing billionaire agenda will highlight. And by the time you leave here today, you will have interacted with multiple ways to get into the struggle if you are not there yet. And I contend that if you are here today, you're ready to get into the struggle. You're ready to get your hands and your feet dirty. So get into the struggle. Talk to these organizations up here and figure out how you can be in the struggle, whether it's becoming a member or donating or just giving putting your life, putting your body on the line for our multiple interlocking liberation struggles. It cannot be more clear in this moment that we must be prepared to increase our organizing at all levels to combat what King called the triple evils of racism, capitalism, and militarism. To truly honor King, we must commit to building a real, independent, working class, class-conscious, multiracial people's movement. To snatch the power out of the blood-stained hands of the oligarchs and put it into the hands of the people united for the liberation and self-determination of all oppressed workers of the world. So I'll close out with this. In the spirit of King's deep black church roots, we do this thing in a black church called call and response. So I'm gonna ask you to do something. Turn to your neighbor to the right and say, neighbor, freedom only comes through persistent revolt. Through persistent agitation. Through persistently rising up. Against the systems of evil. And that's word to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So from this indigenous Tuscarora land to Palestine, to Congo, to Sudan, to Haiti, to everywhere that there are oppressed people fighting for their liberation, may we take heed to these words and persist and organize. Thank you.
Let's give it up for Bria from Raleigh. And yes, there's so many organizations out here, so I just want to name all the sponsoring organizations today to see how a wonderful day of solidarity comes about. First, we have the Party for Socialism and Liberation, the Palestinian Youth Movement, USSW, the Union of Southern Suburbs Workers, make some noise! Siembra NC, DSA, Democratic Socialists of America, UE Local 150, All African People's Revolutionary Party, el Comité de Acción Popular, Muslims for Social Justice, Healthcare Workers for Palestine, Dissenters at NCSU, North Carolina Green Party, Mothers for Ceasefire, Change Pamps Durham, Southern Workers Assembly, El Pueblo, Migrant Roots Media, DGSU Duke Grad Student Union, Refund Raleigh, Duke Beyond Borders, Mi Barrio, UNC Students for Justice in Palestine, Socialist Alternative, Sunrise Durham, Somos Durham, the Brown Berets, Black Workers for Justice, Muslim Women for, and Jewish Voices for Peace. Make some noise for all the organizations. That's solidarity. And to introduce our next speaker, we have Shams from the Palestinian Youth Movement who will be talking about. Let's make some noise for the PYM.
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
All right, y'all. Food, water, clothing, shelter, education, sanitation, medical care, and time. Food, water, clothing, shelter, education, sanitation, medical care, and time. These are the basics, things we all deserve, alongside safety, dignity, respect, and equity. So why don't we have them? It's not because of lack of resources. It's not because of lack of knowledge. It's a system designed to exploit the many for the benefit of the few. A system where money and power are prioritized over the people. The 1% hoard the wealth, sustained through worker exploitation, resource extraction, and violence. Worker exploitation means those who create goods, services, and wealth are underpaid, while the profits go to the bosses. Immigration status is weaponized to exploit workers further. When greed demands more, war becomes a tool. Wars for oil, land, and control displace millions, create refugees, and break families, all while enriching the military-industrial complex. Billions are spent on weapons instead of housing, healthcare, or disaster recovery. In Palestine, weapons are funded by the US to fuel genocide, while corporations profit from stolen land. Even during the devastation, properties on Palestinian shores are sold internationally as vacation homes. Shame. Shame! Profit over people every time. At home, prisons and police enforce control. The prison industrial complex profits from incarcerated labor, while Black and immigrant communities face systemic oppression. Shame. Shame! But we're not powerless. Around the world, resistance grows. From Palestinian defiance to movements for racial justice and workers' rights. We must organize, reject lies, and demand a world where everyone's needs are met. After 15 months of unimaginable horrors in Gaza, Palestinians have emerged victorious. Let's go! And despite what Trump, Biden, or anyone else says, the United States and Israel have failed in Gaza, achieving none of their objectives. The Israeli army is broken. Netanyahu's cabinet is falling apart. The Zionist morale is shattered. And even the Israeli press is now reporting the reality that Israel could not win. Israel could not win, and the Palestinian people, like the people of the world, will write their own history. Despite immense American support, the Israeli army could not divide and colonize the Gaza Strip. Prisoners are finally returning to their loved ones. Displaced Palestinians are returning to their destroyed homes and promising to rebuild. Look no further than the joyful scenes coming from Gaza and Ramallah to understand that this ceasefire agreement is a victory for all of Palestine and for all people of conscience across the world. The path to liberation is long, and it is our duty to Palestine to confront the brutality of Zionism and US imperialism with ever more vigor. We will never forget that this is an American and bipartisan genocide. The US provided tens of billions in funding for this war on Palestinian life. US media outlets manufactured consent for this genocide by promoting known lies. American universities and police continue to suppress protests to quell dissent. Shame! 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 The US not only fueled the genocide, but they went after all those who stood up against it. As Palestinians, we are clear-headed that it is American imperialism, represented by both parties and the ruling class, that continues the Zionist occupation of Palestine. The genocidal Biden administration was not our friend, and neither is the incoming administration. The ceasefire deal and the historic prisoner release it includes was not given to us by Trump. It is not his nor his administration's gift to the Palestinian people. No, it was won by the steadfastness and unyielding resolve of the Palestinian people of Gaza. It is our duty to halt Zionism's genocidal agenda. The US continues to send billions to Israel while America burns and people here lose their homes, jobs, and rights. Shame. 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 Moreover, logistics companies like Maersk, operating out of our backyard in New York and Jersey, provide an unending flow of military components without which this US genocide would have been impossible. The side of struggle is right here. And we join with all people in struggle against the billionaire agenda that profits from genocide and destruction. In the words of Dr. King, we may have all come on different ships, but we're in the same boat now.
Yeah.
Whether we're Black, Palestinian, an immigrant, or working class, we're all connected in the struggle for freedom and justice. And together, we can create a world where no one is left behind. Thank you.
Let's give it up for Shams from the Palestinian Youth Movement. Let's give it up for PYM for over 1 year have taken to the streets in every single city across the country. Just a quick announcement, if you're getting cold, we have hand warmers and gloves, so please get some hand warmers and gloves if you're getting cold. Also, please check, someone dropped their pills for their heart pills, I forgot the name. Nitroglycerin. So if that's you, please come to Toby right here, the care team, if you drop those. And our next speaker is going to be Jack from Mothers for Ceasefire. Let's give it up for Jack.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. We're going to end this right here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Get out here and support some of these organizations. I see that in the live. A lot of people have complained about not taking care of ourselves at home, but a lot of these people's family live over there, and America is a land of immigrants, so it's very important that our loved ones are cared for. Thank you for watching.
My name is Jack, and I am a member.
You can see how many people are here.
My story is a little bit unique because though I claim to be a mother, America stole my children as well. Just like many black and brown